This week, the Florida Legislature passed a new congressional map that was drawn in secret by Governor Ron DeSantis and announced exclusively on Fox News. This was the map the governor's office sent to Fox. He gave it to them before he even gave it to legislators. As you can see, it was color-coded in red and blue to reveal that the new congressional districts could send 4 additional Republicans to Congress from Florida. Before this map was created, there were 20 districts that favored Republicans and 8 that favored Democrats. This new map creates 24 districts that favor Republicans. Here is how State Senator Jason Pizzo described what was happening.
So roughly 41% of the registered voters in the state of Florida, just going by Secretary of State's data, are Republican. But proposing 24 out of 28 congressional maps would mean 86% of all congressional districts are actually Republican districts. Let me pose the question this way. Why is 59% of registered voters in Florida no longer represented?
As we all know by now, this national redistricting battle started last year after President Trump, afraid that Democrats could take over the House, demanded that Texas redraw their map to pick up 5 new Republican seats.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw? 5. And then what if California and North Carolina for the blue?
Yeah, well, that's okay too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states we're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition.
And if there was any doubt about what he meant by other states, a month later on Truth Social, he called on Florida to follow Texas's lead. In response, Democrats in California and Virginia redrew their maps to create more Democratic seats. And following this week's U.S. Supreme Court decision invalidating parts of the Voting Rights Act, other states are likely to enter the fray. And look, I get it. Republicans complain when Democrats do this, and Democrats complain when Republicans do it. There is hypocrisy on all sides. Nevertheless, it is important to remember a few things about Florida that are different than other states. In California and Virginia, their partisan gerrymandered maps were at least given to the voters to approve in advance. DeSantis could have done that. He had plenty of time, but he chose not to, deciding instead to follow Texas's lead of just ramming through a map that favors Republicans. But Florida is not Texas. Florida's Constitution specifically prohibits partisan gerrymandering. Voters in 2010 overwhelmingly passed a constitutional amendment known as the Fair Districts Amendment that says congressional maps cannot be drawn to favor or disfavor a political party or an incumbent. And yet the governor now argues he is not bound by the Florida Constitution. During a Senate committee hearing on Tuesday, the governor's legal counsel, Mo Jazil, told senators the governor doesn't believe he has to follow the Fair Districts provision of the state constitution because the governor has decided it's unconstitutional. Think about that for a moment. The governor is now deciding which parts of Florida's constitution he wants to follow. That notion was reinforced when Senator Rosalynn Osgood questioned Jason Perrotta, the man who drew the new congressional map.
The question is, how does this map comply with the Florida Fair District Amendment?
Well, as Mr. Jazil just testified, it does not have to.
So since the governor believes he doesn't have to follow the Constitution prohibiting the use of partisan information when drawing congressional maps, that's exactly what Perrotta said he did.
Not using race and not having to comply with the Fair Districts Amendments, the entire suite of redistricting criteria that are available to other states, I used here, including partisan data, yes.
As you would expect, when it came time to vote, Democrats opposed the new maps and Republicans voted for it. There were a couple of exceptions. In the House, 1 Republican, Hillary Cassell, defied the governor. And in the Senate, 4 Republican senators voted against the map, including 2 from Miami-Dade County, Senator Ileana Garcia and Senator Alexis Calatayud. Neither wanted to speak after the vote, but this is how Republican Senator Jen Bradley, an attorney from North Florida, explained why she voted no.
Being a senator and being in elected office carries a tremendous responsibility. And I don't have the pleasure, I don't sit here as a senator looking at a map saying, boy, that map looks great for the R's. I don't sit here with the luxury of saying, boy, that map looks good or that map looks bad, picking the map that I like, that I think would be helpful. I have a duty to uphold the Constitution that I swore to defend. I can't do it. It's just unconstitutional, and it's a tough one, but I'm a no.
After the vote, I spoke to the Democratic leader of the Florida Senate, Lori Berman.
In hindsight, I will tell you, this was an absolute partisan, illegal gerrymander. The thing that struck me the most about this special session was when we questioned the map maker, and he told us that he did it with partisan intent. And then we heard from the attorney who told us that they feel that the Fair Districts Amendment, which is part of the Florida Constitution, is invalid. And it's interesting that this attorney has decided he's the judge and the jury, and he's going to throw out something that 63% of Floridians supported.
Well, it's not just the attorney, it's the governor. The governor has basically decided that there are parts of the Florida Constitution he doesn't feel bound by. I mean, that's more disconcerting, right?
Very disconcerting that the governor, that and the fact that the governor gave a color-coded map to Fox News before we as legislators even had the opportunity to review the map. There were so many things that were done improperly in connection with this map, including the lines on the map itself also.
Now, the governor had originally given two reasons for why they needed to do redistricting. One was he was anticipating that the Florida or the U.S. Supreme Court would strike down parts of the Voting Rights Act that guaranteed certain minority districts in drawing congressional districts, a case out of Louisiana. Now, he submitted his map before that case was decided. It actually was decided the way the governor thought it was going to be during the session. But even with that one reason, the other reason he gave was an increase in population in Florida. But under questioning by you and others, it became clear this map really still relies on the 2020 census. It doesn't take into account the new people. That's why none of the seats changed in North Florida, for instance. But how would you talk to me about that?
So a couple different points. I want to go first to the issue that you raised about the changes in population. So we still use the same census data. We still have the same 28 congressional seats. But more interesting, they claim they used some shifting population numbers and that was partly why they had to do it. But when you look at the map, there's no shifting in the north part of Florida, and the Jacksonville area has been one of the highest growing areas in terms of population. So that negates any discussion of the fact that they were taking into account shifting population when they drew the map. I want to go to the second consideration that you raised about the Supreme Court case. I would disagree a little bit in that what the governor's office said was that they expected Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act to be ruled unconstitutional. And when you read the Calais opinion, they say Section 2 is still in effect. It's just a harder standard to meet. So I don't think they have any basis based on that Supreme Court opinion either to draw new maps at this time. There's no reason that they didn't say you can't have minority districts. They just made a higher and a harder standard to meet if you are going to have a minority district.
Obviously, this is going to end up in litigation and will eventually, we're not sure how quickly, end up before the Florida Supreme Court. As you know, 6 of the 7 current justices on the Florida Supreme Court were appointed by Ron DeSantis. How confident are you that the justices will live up to their oath and take this seriously?
I'm very confident that we, as the Democratic caucus, made an amazing case to show why this is a violation of the Florida Constitution. We, in questioning and in debate, we set forth all the factors that a court would look at to see that this is clearly unconstitutional. I do have a little concern because of exactly what you said. All these justices have been appointed by the governor. I believe there might be an avenue to appeal to the United States Supreme Court, and maybe even if the Florida Supreme Court rules one way, the United States Supreme Court could take a look at this and come down, hopefully, with the decision to show that this is truly being done to violate a state constitution.
Do you anticipate that this map will likely hold at least through the midterm, that any court decision might not come until sometime in 27? Or do you think that this could get struck down sooner?
I think it'll be very difficult for it to be struck down sooner. We are in an extraordinarily tight time frame right now. The governor has said that as soon as he gets the map, he will sign it. We don't know exactly when he will get the map. There is no requirement. The legislature could hold it and wait and give it to him after qualifying, although I think that's highly unlikely. And then qualifying is June 8th. So if the governor gets the map, signs the map, the new districts are going to be drawn for the June 8th qualifying, and the election will probably take place with those new maps, even though there won't have been a chance to litigate whether or not these maps were drawn constitutionally.
Again, you pointed out, as we discussed earlier, that this map was first released to Fox News, color-coded red and blue, before even the legislators got it. What significance do you draw from that?
The significance is that the governor wanted to show his hardcore supporters that he was going to gerrymander Florida and try and get 4 more congressional seats. Plain and simple.